This week on the Baseline Podcast, we are discussing, well, some big news has been happening in baseball recently, and one is Shohei Ohtani is back pitching now. It was for an inning, but what did that inning show us? And then also we're going to talk about the big blockbuster trade of Rafael Devers going from Boston Red Sox to the San Francisco Giants. What does that mean for the Giants? And what is Boston doing? We're going to explain it all coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben. That's Josh, and we're here in June. The heat is happening. I've been feeling it. It is certainly here. But also, there's just craziness going on in the world. Like it's Josh and I before the show, we're kind of talking about the craziness happening, and it's kind of fun to be able to come back and to talk about something that really should have no lines, party lines, or political lines. It should just be a joy to talk about sports. So that's what we're here to do. And Josh, what was the joy of sports and the things you got to do this past week that you would like to share with everyone?
Yeah, did see Shohei Ohtani's pitching debut last night, which we'll talk about later in the show. That was part of it. Outside of that, though, there wasn't a whole lot of that for me. There was
the Reds helping the Guardians gain some ground, and with the Tigers losing. Just saying, we're here to help.
A little bit. Cleveland hasn't really done a whole lot to help their case, though. They got swept, I think, by the Mariners, lost 8 out of 10, and now we got some series that are going to be happening soon with more out west, but
yeah,
free falling, it looks like, with no plan of success in sight. Yeah, like we talked about last week. But as far as watching stuff recently, there hasn't been a ton of that. I've been just mostly sleeping and getting stuff done with some things for buying a home. But that was about my weekend, and then hung out with my dad a little bit on Father's Day, Sunday.
Yeah, happy Father's Day, by the way. We didn't say that last episode. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. You know, it's kind of crazy, Father's Day. It's not really celebrated. I think I read an article. It's like at church, the churches always celebrate Mother's Day, and then you go to church on Father's Day, and it's just like Happy Father's Day.
And it should be the opposite, because men are supposed to be the spiritual leaders of their family and like leading the way. Like that should be a much bigger point of emphasis.
Just funny.
But even the world does that, man, with like their whole toxic masculinity push and saying, don't forget about all the single moms that have to do 2 jobs. And it's like, we have Mother's Day for that. For all the fathers that are active and like trying to be, good men out there, like this is the day for them. Stay out of it.
Yeah. Our dads have done a lot in our lives. So happy Father's Day, Dad. You love to comment. Pretty much every episode, there's always a comment from my dad saying how Josh is wrong. So, there's always
to see what I'm wrong about today.
There's always some beef with, I don't think there's any beef. I think it's just my dad trying to create a scene. But no, we love our dads. But yeah. So yeah, that's what you did this week. I didn't really do, I obviously did football, but we got beat for the first time on our top team, but we also didn't have our starting quarterback, and it was kind of a crazy game. One of our better players broke his ankle, and it was like the ugliest. It's like one of those things where you see it on TV and you're like, oh, I got to look away. But the problem is, like, being one of the coaches, kind of can't look away. And that was my first experience seeing something pretty surreal, if I do say myself. But that's what I did, Josh. It was we both had a chill week. We both kind of had a chill week, just focus on life,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but there was something that pretty big happened, Josh, that we wanted to spend. So this episode is going to be a little kind of last week, where it's like things are finishing up. There's also some stories we'll talk about, but there was some big news that happened like a couple days ago, and Josh literally texted me like it was like, I think it was like 2 hours after that happened. You texted me like, because 2 things happened in that span of hours. Josh goes, because I think he always texts me, hey, these are some ideas I have for the show. And
usually around Sunday, I check in to see what day we can record. And then like not too long after I sent that message is when I got the news about the Rafael Devers trade and was like, oh, look, we got this Devers trade we can discuss. And then the Ohtani news, like, oh, Ohtani's going to make his pitching debut too. And I was like, okay, now we got another baseball focused episode that we can totally indulge in.
Yeah, so that's what makes it kind of fun for Josh and I, because like we never know. Like there's been times where we'll like our recording gets pushed back today, and some news happens like the day before, or like on the day we were supposed to record. So it's like a lot of things that actually time up great. But Josh, Why don't you run us down the trade before we kind of get our thoughts on it? And I have some thoughts about it, and I know you do as well. Give us the trade
Yeah,
details, kind of what is all involved there, and maybe a little backstory because I think that
sure.
helps people as well.
Yeah, I'll set the scene for this because Rafael Devers in Boston have
One
kind
of the
of
best players,
been,
by the way, in MLB. One of the best
yeah,
players.
yeah, definitely a top 20 player, I'd say, by most standards,
Three
especially on
hundred
the
million
hitting
dollar
side.
standards.
Yeah, yeah, $300 million standards too, probably one of the bigger contracts. But setting the scene, all the baseball people know that Rafael Devers in Boston has been one of the more interesting uh, battles this
Relationships.
year, player relationships with the team. And going into the spring, of course, Boston signs Alex Bregman, and when you get the
Yeah.
opportunity to do something like that, you absolutely do it. But that obviously created a problem there
Little
because now you
tussle.
have two third basemen. And Rafael Devers being one of the worst defensive third basemen in the league, people just
Literally
assume
one of
that
the
he would
worst.
go either to first base or DH or something like that. But
But
Devers says,
no.
I'm not going to switch. I'm playing third base. And Bregman's even like open to going to second base, it seems like. But eventually Devers becomes a DH, has an awful start
Which
this season.
which he
Strike,
wasn't happy about that, by the way. He fought that for a while.
yeah.
He was like, okay, fine.
Yeah, it was
I'll
kind of
do
just
it.
like, oh, whatever. Okay, I see the writing on the wall. This is what's going to happen,
And
and
he
he
sucked.
accepted. And he sucked like that first few week or
We
two,
talked
like
about it.
16 strikeouts, I think, in his first
Yeah.
20 at bats or something like that. But all that has gotten past. He's looking like the Rafael Devers of old. He's third in the league in RBIs, and we just figured, okay, they mended that relationship. We're all back to normal now. But uh, apparently that's not the case because we got the news Sunday
Well,
that Rafael Devers.
even before that, remember their first baseman Casas or whatever his name is. He
Oh
got
yes,
hurt,
yes,
remember?
yes.
And they were telling
There's
him,
another one,
"Hey,
another movement.
could you move to first because we want to make sure that your bat's in the lineup. We also don't really have a first base replacement as of now." And he basically told the management, like I guess it was like
That's
in an
right.
interview,
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, they just got to figure it out, do their job." And then I guess from the story is that the owner, the GM, the president all flew to wherever they were playing and had a meeting. And was like, "Dude, you can't do this like publicly. You can't just be like bashing the organization," which I
Yeah.
understand. I get that. And then that's where it was weird because I think that was only like about a week ago or a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer than that. But obviously
A little bit
something
longer,
soured.
yeah. But
Something is
yeah,
soured.
Devers is like the face of the franchise, and I would assume that when he signed his contract, he was told he'd be at one position, but that also was a different GM that gave him that
Yeah, that's
contract. That
true.
wasn't Craig
Yeah,
Breslow. So Breslow sees things probably a little bit differently than what previous GM did. Would probably like his $300 million face of the franchise to be a little bit more cooperative and willing to like
I
do what's
agree.
best for the team and stuff like that. But yeah, wasn't really excited about playing first either. But anyway, the trade news was still a shock because it's like this is something that you would have expected maybe closer to the
No
deadline
one
in
saw
July.
coming. Not even the
Yeah,
insiders. No one
it's
saw this
like right in the
coming.
middle. Like you'd have thought this trade would have happened when the drama was happening, but then like enough time passed that's like, oh, they fixed it.
Yeah.
And then it's also like far enough away from the deadline come in July where it's like this seems kind of
And
early.
neither team is bad necessarily. Like
Well,
Red
Red
Sox aren't
Sox are
terrible.
fourth in the division right now. They had the high expectations. They took some chances. You know, you went out and got Bregman, you signed Walker Bueller, you got Christian Campbell, highly touted prospect
They just
coming up. You're hoping
brought up all their prospects, it seems like.
Roman Anthony is up now. You're hoping that Yoshida can return to his normal self. Jared Duran's over there. Like expectations in Boston. I mean, this is a franchise that's won 4 World Series in the last 20 years. It's a very successful franchise, and you had high hopes coming into this season that you were going to turn things around from the past few years, but it just hasn't gone that way. And so this is also, we'll get into this, a pattern, it seems like in Boston of trading away their face of the franchise because they don't want to pay them the money. Like this is what they did with Mookie Betts. This is what they did with uh, letting Xander Bogaerts walk. And I mean, Chris Sale's been thrown around, but nobody thought Chris Sale would be returning to his normal self. That guy was getting hurt all the time. But needless, all that to say, Devers traded to the Giants for Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, James Tibbs, and Jose Bello. But apparently, the news also came out that Boston didn't really shop around Devers. This is just an offer that came
Kind
about,
of
and
like
they
a
didn't
GM
really,
relationship deal, it seems like. Maybe like
yeah,
a GM
they
deal.
didn't really look for a better one. It's just like they got this offer. It's like okay, it wasn't like let's see if we can get the what kind of a deal we can get for Devers and maximize this. But it was a pretty low return, I think, for most people's standards. Very similar to how they basically gave Mookie Betts away to the Dodgers for
It's almost like they were
peanuts.
embarrassed to like shop him around. It's like our relationship's so bad,
Yeah.
so we're embarrassed to even announce it. So
Yeah,
let me go to my Rolodex and find my good friends that I can talk to directly and try to get a deal done, right?
yeah.
It's
But
interesting.
according to Jeff Passan, he spoke with a lot of GMs, and I guess Devers' contract, which still has, I think it's 8 years,
Yes.
$250 million
Yeah.
dollars on it, is seen as like underwater, uh, because he's basically a DH. They don't like his defense, so they just see him as a bat and a really expensive bat, basically. But for the Giants, you haven't had a 30 home run bat since Barry Bonds.
That's
You're also
wild.
second. You're second in a very competitive National League West division right now, just 2.5 games back of the Dodgers. Like this is, if I'm a Giants fan, I am ecstatic because we just got a piece that's going to make
I
us
would
better.
love him
That's
to go to
going to,
first base though. I would love them to play him at first. Like I would just I that would make me for all the Red Sox fans, that would just make me so happy. Just to see them be like, seriously? Like really?
yeah. I just don't know if they're going to do that because Wilmer Flores is over there
He's
and seems
raking.
to be doing good enough. Yeah, like scrolling through, I mean, Willie Adames was the big bat that they signed, and he's been very underwhelming this season, hitting just slashing 201, 284, 340 with a 624 OPS, .1 WAR. But yeah, Flores has been a good bat. Matt Chapman has been over there. The defense has been solid. Uh, so this is like that maybe that boost that you need if you're a Giants fan, if you're a Giants coach, and you're like, this
And they
is
play the Red Sox
perfect.
this
How this
weekend, right? I
I
believe they
don't know
do.
if they
Or is
play
it
the Red
next
Sox this
weekend?
weekend.
It's coming up. That's all I know.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. This weekend, Friday, Saturday, and
Dude.
Sunday, Boston will be at San Francisco.
Oh man.
So that'll be a very quick homecoming, I guess. It won't be at Fenway Park. That
Yeah.
would have been interesting seeing how the fans at Fenway would have accepted him. But yeah, that's kind of I guess the backstory, the action, and the aftermath. But yeah, overall reactions, I think we were all surprised by the timing. Maybe not so surprised by the return because this just seems to be what Boston does, but we can get into this later in the discussion. Is this Boston giving up? Is this maybe the first of many trades where they're just like, yeah, we're just gonna have to blow this thing up now because we aren't competing anywhere near where we thought?
Yeah, this whole trade's interesting to me because I think this is a team that I mean, Boston's not necessarily the richest team in the league, but they're a
Yeah, they're
top
like middle of the
10.
pack. They're
Yeah, they're
middle of the
top
pack. They
top
behave
15, yeah.
they behave like a small market team, even though they got a big city and they
Yeah.
got like some money to spend.
Yeah. So for me, I think I look at Devers and go, look, I'm an old school guy, and you know this, Josh. Like I would hate to have this in my locker room, like as if I'm a manager. Like him going out publicly and saying I don't want to play first base is the management's job, or I don't want to. I'm not moving from third base. Like that to me just shows you're so caught up in you as a player that you're not even able to see the big picture. Like if he could just look at a stat sheet, he could see that his defense is like atrocious. Like it's the worst. Like I've seen him play defense, and it's like Pablo Sandoval was a better defender, and he was 250, 60 pounds right at third base. So for me, I just look at Devers and I go, I agree with what Passon said. I remember reading that and hearing that as well as like, do you want to pay 250 million for a guy that's just going to hit? And if he has an awful year, then you feel like you just drained the money. It's kind of like with Joey Votto at the end of his Reds contract. It was like there was those years where he's getting hurt and hitting 220. It's like, why are we paying him 40 million a year? Right. So I think with Devers, I do agree with you. I think the Giants did hit the jackpot. I mean, they got him for a bargain. Like if you think about it, they gave up Harrison, he's a very good young pitcher.
I was gonna say there's a couple
They
young
like
pitching
Hicks.
prospects in there
Hicks
that
has been
could pan out,
inconsistent for the
but
last 2 years. Ever since he left St. Louis, Hicks hasn't been the same. They have a couple young guys that are lower, two double A, single high A. So if you look at it, yes, you're right. It is kind of the Boston way of like it feels like when they're writing off, a guy in the sunset and they're trying to rebuild. Like I could see why they want to rebuild because they have a bunch of 20-year-olds they brought up. They have 21, 22-year-olds they brought up and playing with, but they're not really super far out of the race yet to where, it's still kind of early. You got to wait to see for at least the month of July. So I don't know what's going on. I think it's what worries me is if Boston does this, I'm thinking of my own team, right? And I'm just thinking about the Reds, and I'm
yeah.
like, how long until they decide to do that with De La Cruz, right? If this team's willing to do with Devers with a $300 million contract, what are they going to do with Cruz that has like no money into
Yeah.
him? You know, and like
Well,
and then even
usually
the
you will not trade a young guy that you got a bunch of team control over that you're not paying
yeah,
that
but
kind of
that's
money
what
to.
I mean.
You'll
That's what
you'll trade
we're
him
yeah.
later in the deal, like when it's like the next summer he's a
Yeah.
free agent.
Yeah, and I think that's like, also what worries me is the Reds came out and said like, yeah, there's really no goal to sign him a long-term extension right now. I'm like, okay, yeah, thanks for breaking my hearts.
Yeah.
Um, it's like the Guardians all over again. But no, if you look back at the Devers trade, I think from my perspective, it just looks like Boston is like just fed up. It's kind of like it feels like it's like that, maybe as a teacher, you have that student that just like you've tried everything and finally you have to like go to the principal and say like, "Hey, let's try him in a different classroom. Maybe it's me, maybe it's him. I don't know. Let's fix it." That's the vibe I'm getting. I think that makes sense. Is just like they were just so fed up with it that they're finally like, look, we'll just take whatever you're going to willing to give me, and it looked like the Giants was the team they went to. They realized they needed a need and they could give him something. I still with if you're a Red Sox fan, you at least got something like even Roman, try at least to get Roman Anthony. If I'm no, obviously that's not going to happen, but like you at least try to get one of the top couple prospects. Sorry, not Roman Anthony. Top prospects of the Giants. At least get a couple of those guys if you're the Red Sox, but again, but I hope that makes sense. I feel like it is a teacher that just kind of lost its way with its student and trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah. So Boston right now, as it stands, they're fourth in that American League East division, but they are only 5.5 games back of New
That's what I was
York.
saying. Yeah, like that's what I was saying. Like they're not crazy out of it yet.
Not crazy out of it yet. So the argument for why they are not giving up would be, like I said before, this is a different GM that didn't sign Devers to this
He
contract
doesn't
that's
like it.
trying to save some money, which if I'm a Boston fan, like I'm tired of trying to save money because we just do this with all of our best players and let them either walk or we trade them for terrible returns, but maybe they'll reinvest this in some of the younger guys with some long-term extensions, or they will go and get like a player that maybe would be better for the locker room at the deadline or in this next coming off season. But younger guys like Rafaela is there, Wilyer Abreu, Christian Campbell, Roman Anthony, they just called up. These are all guys that are 25 and under. So if you're a Boston fan, you'd
They're going like the
have
Reds
some
way.
decent.
They're like going the Reds way, where it's just a bunch of young dudes. They're gonna basically what it looks like.
There are some guys that you hope that can pan out and be like some really solid pieces uh for a future contender. But if I am a Red Sox fan, this just seems like the same old Red Sox kind of way. Like I said, with guys like Bogarts, guys like Betts, guys like Sale, where it's like this is just what they do. It's poverty behavior, and you're not a poverty organization. Like I said, you've won 4 rings the last 20 years. You're like right in the middle of the pack as far as like money and attendance and like ownership, net worth and stuff like that is. So it's like you don't have to act this way. This is something that I'd expect from a team like Cleveland or a team like Cincinnati, not a team like the Boston Red Sox. But uh, yeah, so maybe this isn't them necessarily giving up. I thought maybe some of those other guys like Walker Buehler could be next. But at when you look at, I guess, that bigger picture with and then the place that they are in the standings, it's like maybe they aren't giving up just yet.
No, they're
But when I
just
first
yeah,
heard that news, I was just like, this seems like it's giving up already. But I guess time will tell.
yeah. No, I do. I think that's gonna be the fascinating thing is what do they do next? And look, maybe this is good for both situations. Maybe the Red Sox get on a roll, they make the playoffs or they get close at least, and maybe the Giants, have a really successful year, and maybe then you just counterbalance everything and you just say, you know what, we were successful. So I'm interested to see what happens for sure.
Yeah. We'll get to see Rafael Devers tonight with the Giants. They got a home series with my Cleveland
And
Indians.
they're gonna face the Red Sox this weekend, which will be a very fascinating matchup.
Yeah,
Just a little
for
bit.
sure. Yeah. By the way, that series with the Giants, that could finally put Cleveland below 500 right now after getting swept by Seattle. They're at 35 and 35, 9.5 games back of Detroit,
We
third in
tried to
that
help you
American League
out,
Central
man.
Division.
We tried to help you out. The Reds try to help. Like we beat 2 out of 3 against Detroit. We tried.
Yeah, you just got to also win some games if you're on the Cleveland side.
Hey, the
Uh,
Reds have a better record than the Guardians right now, so I'll take it.
they do, but you're also fourth in your division,
Hey,
but
we're
only
two and a
seven
half,
games back.
and we're only 2.5 back of the wild card. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
By the way, All-Star votes are coming out, guys. We talked about our teams last week. I
And
just saw
I
that
did
Ellie
it.
De La Cruz is leading shortstops. I believe it's home runs, RBIs, steals, and OPS.
OPS,
Maybe
yep.
slugging percentage was on there
And
too,
slugging
but
percentage, yep. And he's like fourth and he's like fourth or no, something in OPS plus. He's also in the top three.
yeah,
But Lindor still has more votes than him because it's New
yeah.
York.
Lindor still has more votes,
It's New
but I mean,
York.
Ellie's got a case. We'll see if he can close that gap, but
Yeah. I mean, he'll probably be the only red that makes it, and that's okay,
I
I
think
feel.
he'll have a spot on the roster
Yeah.
somewhere. It just may not necessarily be the starting shortstop. But staying on the baseball scene, like we've said a couple times, Shohei Ohtani made his pitching debut with the Los Angeles Dodgers in their series against the Padres last night. That was announced, I believe it was Sunday, and the Shohei effect, Ben, it made the get-in price go from $51 to $134, and I think they ended up selling three times the amount of tickets for that game than what they already initially did. One of the ticketing platforms reported. So the Shohei effect in full swing. Didn't go as long as what I would have thought. I didn't read a ton on like what the plan was, but he did go one inning, allowed one run, struck out Manny Machado. And then post game, they were talking with him about how he felt. He said he was a little nervous going into it, wanted to keep the intensity around 95, 96. That was something I was curious about, was where the velocity was going to be since it's been over a year since he last took the mound. But he said that the intensity of the game forced him to go up, and he did hit 100 on the gun a couple times, which in my head when I heard him say that, I was like, this is the San Diego Padres. You're going up against Tatis, Arraez, Machado, Merrill. Like there's all these guys. You're not just gonna cruise by going like mid 90s. You got to like bring your A game. But yeah, one inning, one run. I think this is actually I haven't checked this, but I think he's like the 15th or the 16th Dodger to make a start on the mound this year, which is absolutely insane. The
He's
condition and the health of
yeah.
that rotation over there. But this could be coming back at a really good time for the Dodgers because, like I said, all those injuries are starting to come about now. And I mean, Ohtani, we know he can deal. We've seen him be like a Cy Young caliber pitcher before. We know he can bring the heat. It's just one of those things where it's like you hope that you hope that you got some arms when it comes to time to hit the playoffs and that they're all healthy. But seems to be uh, back. Will slowly be maybe working his way into the rotation again. And I mean, if you're a Dodgers fan, like you absolutely need this right now.
Yeah, and I know like we talked about it uh, a little bit before the show, but I think well, first off, like Otani hitting 100, like let's just talk about how wild that is after having how many elbow issues and then dude still hitting 100. Like, can we talk about how freakish that is to have all these elbow issues and this dude still freaking hitting 100? And like then he goes and he can hit home runs like 450 feet. Like it's ridiculous. Um, yeah, and I think I look at this in twofold. I think, one, I think you brought up a good point about injuries, right? And as I'm a former pitcher, I pitched for like most, I remember from a very young age. Once I hit Little League, I was able to pitch, and then all the way through high school until I stopped playing. And I never once threw a breaking ball. My dad never like, not they saying he didn't want me to, but he was really trying to help me realize that like it helped my arm. And I'm not saying this is the reason why he has the elbow injuries, but Josh, we talked about last year, the number of elbow and shoulder injuries from pitchers just seem like they keep like either increasing or staying the same year after year. And I just go back to the fact that I remember when I was younger, there wasn't as many kids, but like I hear now, like I have friends that, they help out with the local little leagues or they have friends or brothers or sons or whatever. They said the amount of curveballs they see thrown from 13, 12, 13-year-olds, they said is wild. Like just the amount of curveballs, the amount of like sliders. And by the way, a slider is almost more vicious than a curveball because you have to really come down with your elbow and at a fierce, violent angle as you're releasing it, right? And I remember I tried to throw a couple like breaking balls and like I just didn't like the feel of it. And I knew like I wasn't a big kid, as you can tell. I'm not a big dude, like when it comes to like strength wise. And I knew my arms just couldn't handle that. And so I threw a fastball, changeup, forkball. Like that was what I threw, right? And nothing crazy to the arm. And the reason I'm saying that is because you don't see like the old guys, like not a lot of the old guys are really having arm injuries. Like some of them are, but if they are having arm injuries, like I look at Bronson Rowe years ago, it was already after he pitched like 7, 8 straight seasons of 200 plus innings, and then the arm was starting to fall off. You never see anyone get to 200 innings anymore. You never see anyone pushing their limits because for some reason, when Nolan Ryan was playing compared to now, Nolan Ryan could pitch probably about 20 perfect, complete games, whereas guys now can barely complete, 6, 7 innings. I was interested to hear your thoughts on that because I know from someone that pitched like my arm was sore a lot, and that was just from throwing fastballs, changeups, and fork balls and sinkers and stuff like that. But do you feel like maybe that's the impacting that maybe we should start being more cautious as kids are younger rather than forcing it?
Yeah, I mean, Spencer Strider was one of those big names last year that missed the whole entire season, I think. More recently, Corbin Burns is going to be shut down for the year over in Arizona. Another young pitcher that I'm going to butcher his name, but Jacob Misiorowski over at Milwaukee was throwing 5 no-hit innings, had 5 strikeouts, so he's hitting 100 consistently on the gun, and has to leave after that because of an injury over there too. It's just it's a different game now. You mentioned like nobody's really hitting 200 innings anymore. Nobody's really throwing complete games anymore. It's all about the intensity has just increased. Like the need to throw 100 is crazy. Spin rate, that's something that people are being tracked at, and there's just everybody's going like absolutely full out for maybe 5 or 6 innings instead of trying to pace themselves like the pitchers that we saw growing up, or even like maybe Nolan Ryan, where you'd go 9 innings and the pitch count, who cares if it was at 150, you still were not getting
It
hit
was your job,
or
as like
allowing
they
any
would say.
runs.
It was your job, is what they would
Your
say.
job as a starting pitcher, yeah. So it's just a different game now. People now are going a lot more for the 5 or 6 innings of like just insane velocity and spin rate and break, and that's being prioritized over the longer term, like going maybe 8 or 9 innings
Yeah.
and hitting 200 innings. Like it's just gonna be crazy. Like when we talk to our kids someday about pitchers and how we saw.
Yeah.
And I mean, these aren't extinct. Like there's been a few complete games, a few no hitters in recent years where it's like, this is cool. I love seeing this. But
Like
it reminds me when I was a kid.
I love seeing the guy that throws 88 miles an hour and throws a complete game because he just throws
It's
ground
just if
balls, just ground ball outs. Like I love that.
it's just if you throw 88 now, you're gonna get laughed out of the league. You're gonna get
I
like
know that's what's crazy about
bombed.
it.
But I mean, you look at guys like Greg Maddux, and you're like, how did that guy like pitch as long as he did, not
He
get
only
teed
threw
off?
like
He was
90 mile an hour
and he
basically.
kept the pitch count low too.
Yes.
Like we call a Maddox because it's like complete game with under 100 innings pitched. We just saw Framber Valdez do that not too long ago. Uh, yeah, that ground ball style pitcher, or like where you can just like locate.
The Bronson Arroyo, like or I was thinking about this, Josh. When's the next time we're going to see a Jamie Moyer that pitches like 23 seasons? We'll never see that again.
Justin Verlander might be the last Jamie Moyer type, if you want to even call him
Yeah.
that.
Like we'll never see a guy go more than I think you'll see a starting pitcher from now on. I'm talking about from this year until, we're dead or whatever. You probably never see a starting pitcher go more than like 14 or 15 years in the bigs. I just don't see how they can. If they're
Their
right
arms are
there.
just gonna go away, and since he's the most recent phenomenon, I'll bring Paul Skeens into the conversation.
Yeah.
You see how good that guy's pitching right now. We can talk about how the Pirates are just totally mismanaging him, screwing him over by not scoring any runs, and he's getting all these losses that he shouldn't be, and it's like just sad to see that. But even more so, it's like how much longer are we going to see Paul Skeens pitch like this before he has his first trip to maybe the 10-day or the 60-day, or he's out for the season because of
Yeah.
Tommy John or something like that? How much longer are we going to see a kid like that be able to pitch
Well,
at
Look at
the
Hunter
intensity
Green.
that he's at?
Look at the
Hunter Green's
Reds.
had yeah,
He's injured right now.
Hunter
Like
Green's already there. Yeah, Hunter
like
Green's already there dealing with that.
dude's a freak, and yet we don't get to see him pitch because for some reason, like since 2000 like 15, like all pitchers have just decided to like, again, I still believe that a pitcher that throws 89, 90, 91 miles an hour that can locate, has a little off speed, and can manipulate the plate. I still believe there is a place in the league because I still see it. I still see guys that start for. I mean, look at Andrew Abbott for the Reds. The guy maybe touches 93 miles an hour.
Yeah, it doesn't throw
Maybe.
super hard.
And he just, what does he do? He places the ball. Like, it is possible. I just think these GMs are so fascinated with the guy that throws 104, and I get it. It's a freak of nature. But how far do these guys last until they like? I remember guys like, even like the guy that got traded, Jordan Hicks, right? People started to start him because he threw fast. He barely could last, right? How many starters do we see wipe out starting so they go to the bullpen? Like, just hey, let's go with us slow guys like me. The most I ever threw was about like 86, 85. But you know what? I could place the ball wherever I wanted to because they had control. And like that's what we're missing, right? We have guys that throw hard, but they can't control it.
Yeah. In Cleveland right now, I guess Shane Bieber's that guy for us. He throws, I think mid 90s is tops as he ever been, but he's mostly like around 93. He was supposed to have some kind of rehab start that got pushed back because of some elbow discomfort. So that's uh, put on hold again. But we see guys adjust all the time to data in baseball and stuff. And you wonder, will we ever see a pendulum shift to where they get away from the spin rate and the crazy velocity, or if it's going to stay here and only continue to get
Just
worse,
going back to classic baseball.
or with wonder if the adjustment will be made where starters, or maybe you don't even have starters, maybe you just have five guys that would be starters, and then seven or eight that would be your relievers, and there's no starter, and you just throw out a guy every couple innings, and
Oh
your
gosh, I would
rotation
hate it. Oh, I would
your
hate it.
rotation is maybe like three guys going 3 innings each, and then that's like how it always goes.
Oh, that'd be awful.
If that's the way that the league goes, or if they do go back to, okay, let's, name of the game's longevity. We can make more money if we can play in the league for 15 years instead of 10. What if we did, or maybe cool down the intensity? We got better at locating, we got better at uh, off speed stuff, and then that ends up being the pendulum shift. I don't know, because they'll eventually we're going to get to a point where it just seems so scary and unsafe to keep pitching at that rate, and we're going to have so many elbow injuries that it's going to command like some kind of a pendulum shift, and we'll see. I guess some team
I
that's
guess,
super into
and,
data and analytics that's going to come out one day and be like, we're not going to have a starting rotation, and everyone's going to be
and
like, that's crazy, and then it's going to work, and then all the other teams will just be
it's
like,
gonna be
yep,
the
we're just
A's.
going to
It's gonna
have
be the
we're just
A's.
going to have like 12 pitchers on our roster, and we're going to go like three guys 3 innings each, and then we'll have the next start or the game, three guys 3 innings each, next start three guys 3 innings each, next start or next game three guys 3 innings each, and then that's all 12 of your pitchers right there that got used, and then you just go around again or something like that. I don't know.
Oh goodness, oh, don't hurt baseball for me. But no, I miss the Barry Zitos of the world that throw a curveball that's about 12 feet tall and then just comes down
A
perfectly,
lot of
right?
break. Yeah, and Barry wasn't like a super high velo guy either,
No. But
if I
anyways,
remember right.
the base what I'm trying to say is that baseball's changing, but we still obviously got to look at how do we get there and how do we stop it. But that leads me to another baseball question. I did not tell Josh this beforehand because before we move on to kind of our last kind of topic for the day, I do want to get your take because in Cincinnati this past weekend, the Savannah Bananas were in Cincinnati.
Yes, I had a friend make the trip down to
There is
watch them.
there's a local kid actually from Springfield, that actually Lauren Kuhn, a mutual friend of both of ours, who actually is like I think knows or somehow is associated with him. But anyways, he plays for Savannah Bananas, so it was like a homecoming for him. But I want to get your take on Savannah Bananas because I have a very mixed view of the Savannah Bananas, and
Hmm.
it's been very hard for me to like. I think it's funny, like a lot of the stuff they do is funny, but I have a very mixed take, and so I'll kind of give you my take of the Savannah Bananas because I want to just talk about it because I think we always never really talk about them. We like joke about them maybe occasionally in the show, but we never actually what do they mean to baseball? To me, it's really hard for me to watch them because I feel like this is going to make me sound like a very old timer, but it feels like sometimes, in some ways, they're insulting baseball in the game of baseball. And maybe that's their point, and maybe that's what they want to do because there's some really good baseball players that decide to give up baseball and do this, and that's great. They're selling out crowds. I get that. It almost feels like the Barnum Circus, right, from back in the 1800s, 1900s. But I guess for me, like I look at it as like, yeah, maybe it is fun for especially families that they want 2 hours instead of a 3 or 4 hour baseball game in the major league stadium. You have a 2 hour game, and there's some fun wrinkles and stuff. But for the pure baseball lover in me, it's so hard to watch because it's just like this isn't the game I grew up around, and this is not the game I really love. And then at the same time, as like the teacher of me and the kid at heart, like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like if you catch a foul ball, it's an out, right? Like if instead of a walk, you have to sprint around the bases, right? Like, and you saw Sean Casey tear his hamstring, right? Like those kind of things. But it's a fascinating thing. So, Josh, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it and your take on the whole Savannah Bananas thing.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you a single player on the team. I've never seen them play outside of like a clip on Instagram or Twitter here and there. But when I have seen that, it seems like there's some polar opposites. Some people that love the bananas and what they do, and then there's some people that are like, I freaking hate these guys so much and hope that they all get injured and the whole thing like goes bankrupt and it just stops because they hate seeing it so much. And I think I'm more in the middle where yeah, it can be a fun, I guess, alternate, kind of like how the Harlem Globetrotters are in
Yeah,
basketball,
yeah,
or
yeah.
like you're never going to see that kind of play in a real game. But I think with some of those things like the dance routines and whatnot, it's a little even further extra than what the Globetrotters are on basketball. Like I just like I could do away with some of that stuff. Like if you're gonna have maybe a more crazy pimp job when you hit a home run or something like that, or run around the bases and you do a cartwheel or something like that. I don't know. Those kind of things. Like yeah, that adds like I guess a little extra flair to it. But when you got like all nine guys out on the field and they're all doing some kind of synchronized dance routine, I'm like this is like ridiculous and stupid, and I couldn't watch like 2 hours of this or whatever. Like so, it's definitely not my thing. I think it has its place, but it's just a little too extreme. And I'm very close to the old head side of it, or a lot closer to the old head side of it than like the fun side, because I still think that even in Major League Baseball, some of these guys that get all bent out of shape because somebody hits a home run off of them, and then they do their trot around the bases or flip the bat the way that they do. Like if you don't want that to happen, don't hit a home run. But then there's guys that'll run the bases, that'll like stop in the middle of second or third, or like Euro step or something like that. I'm like, okay, that's stupid and that shouldn't be a part of the game.
Yeah.
But baseball has a
But
place, I think, to have
yeah.
fun, but there's just some things, even
Like
in
that you
the
respect it, that you respect the tradition of it. I think
yeah.
that's where I think a lot of us are at. Like when he
There's
comes
still some things even in like the fun, I guess, take on it that the bananas have. I'm just like, that's a little too far even for me.
well, even for me, it's like I feel like he knows it because in interviews with ESPN, he's even said like he goes, I know that there are people that don't like what I'm doing in baseball. I just think there's certain parts of baseball are boring. I'm like, well, then you don't love baseball. Like I guess that's just about my mind goes. Like you just don't like baseball, or you never were good enough, and or whatever. Like again, to each their own. You're making a lot of money doing what you're doing. It really annoys me that they'll go sell out a Red stadium, but yet the Reds can't freaking sell out their own stadium. That does annoy me, and because it's like Reds fans will show up to the Savannah Bananas, but yet you won't show up for the Reds baseball, even when Reds are good. Like I remember seeing the Reds a couple years ago when they were like 12 games over 500, dominating, playing great ball. No one in the stands. Like so, to me, if you want to fix it, part of baseball, great, yeah. Like let's petition it, but like to call this Savannah Banana baseball team, it's really hard for me. I think you should call it it is a form of entertainment. Again, but I think yeah, there are parts that are funny. It's kind of cool. Like if you, I think the trick things are kind of cool. Like to me, that's kind of fun. Like that's kind of like the Globetrotters, like doing some extra like between the legs, grab it, throw it to first. You get a trick play or whatever, or backflip catch. Like those are cool. But I do agree with you. Like I think at the Red Stadium, they like stopped at third, or it might have been at the football stadium before the Reds. The one of the guys, his name's Rack. He's pretty famous. Like hit a home run and then he stopped at third, and they did the West Side Story like snapping as he went home, and I'm just like, um, cool. Why are what? Like those kind of things, if that makes sense. Like
Sure.
that's what bothers me. Kind of like what you said. Just like,
Hmm.
huh? How's that? Huh? Okay. But anyways, I want everyone down below leave your comments. Dad, this is for you because I'm sure, Dad, you have a great take on this. I'm sure his is so for the Savannah Bananas. But Dad, leave your take. Everyone else, leave their take below. That'd be really cool and awesome. Josh, I know we have a couple things left to talk about. What were the couple things you wanted to finish up the show with?
Yeah, I think where we can wrap it up is just revisiting where the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals are at, because next time we record, we will have a final result of that. So starting NBA right now, OKC leads 3-2. They just won Game 5, 120 to 109 back on their court, so they'll be in Indianapolis for Game 6 on Thursday. See if Howie Burton and the gang over there can get some more magic and force a Game 7 in OKC, or if OKC is going to go ahead and put it away right over there.
Yeah.
I will say, though, this NBA Finals, while everybody was, at least that was covering it in the media, not super excited about it because of the teams that were there and the markets that were going to be, I guess
The
the fan
Dumb and
bases. And
Dumber with
yeah,
with Kendrick Perkins and
basically saying why it was gonna be like a lame, stupid finals or whatever. The games that I have watched, I have enjoyed, uh, and I think the basketball people, like I said before, would also enjoy this too. But that's where we're at. Any uh
well, I think Halliburton
thing to
needs to
say about
show.
it?
I think Halliburton needs to show up if they're going to win the Pacers. But at this
That's
point,
been a common theme for
but
all
if
these wins that they've gotten.
but I do believe though that I think the Pacers kind of not. I'm not saying luck, but the Pacers had a great run in the playoffs where they were facing teams that had injury issues and guys were just not their themselves. They face every team they face. I think they finally hit a team that's like, hey, we're healthy. And now I think this is where OKC shuts the door. I think they're going to be in that nail in the coffin type look. And, I just don't think the Pacers have enough. I haven't thought they've had enough firepower the whole playoffs. I didn't think they did. And I think this is now proving it that they really don't have that extra firepower they need to pull this one out.
Yeah, the last game, Halliburton had 4 points all at the free throw line. He was 0 for 6 shooting from the field, so that's something that's definitely got to change if they're gonna pull out a win over here. Picking up the slack though in that game at least was Pascal Siakam. He's gotten 28, 20, and 21 in the last 3 games. That's a
Wild.
guy that's definitely been a big piece of on their end too. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Ben. We have said a lot about the way that he's played in the regular season. I've liked that they've limited, I guess, some of the fouls that have been called that he normally would get in the regular season. But
Yeah.
even still, like Game 5, he gets 14 free throws. Game 4, that they won, also he got 10 free throws. All of them, I believe, were in the second half. But at least Game 1 and Game 3, he only had 14 total free throws in that game. They always do officiate a little differently in the playoffs. I would love to see some more consistency and the gap be bridged between how you officiate in the regular season and the finals. Because like if you're gonna play a certain way in the regular season, then you're gonna change it up in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
it's
It's
not
like
fair. Yeah.
it's not really a fair expectation to set.
No.
Although I do agree with how they officiate in the playoffs. Like, no, if you're gonna do all this initiating contact and all these flops and not call it, I'm all for that. Just do it in the regular season too.
Yeah, I agree.
Stanley Cup picture right now. We are also about to have a game 6 played tonight. Florida can put it away here, Ben, on their home ice. They are up 3-2 after getting a 5-2 win on Saturday, and then on Thursday after we recorded last, Edmonton did tie it up 5-4 in overtime. There's been a lot of games that have gone that way. So when we recorded last time, we talked about Edmonton getting the overtime win in game 1, Florida getting the double overtime win in game 2, and then Florida just blew it up in game 3 and won 6-1. But then Edmonton tied it up in game 4, the Thursday after we recorded, with a 5-4 overtime victory. Panthers go up 3-2 with the 5-2 victory on Saturday in game 5. So now they can put it away on their home ice in game 6. We'll see what happens there. But that's been another one of those Stanley Cups that's been. I've gotten to watch one game. I wish I could have gotten more. It's just working nights and then having other things to take care of. And then baseball going on. There's some times where I'd rather watch that. Plus, the NBA finals have been fun too. But Stanley Cup, I'm sure for the hockey fans has been fun. There's been a lot of close games, but it does look like Canada's drought is going to be going on a little bit longer. It seems like.
Yeah. Oh, poor Canada. There,
Yeah.
there, there were. Some would say that it's not the only thing that is in a drought. Yeah, we'll leave that political joke there. But no, yeah, you're right. It's sad for Canada, the cold place that seems like they can never win a Stanley Cup. But yeah, it's definitely a interesting time, I guess, for the finals of both to be almost ending the exact same time, which is really odd. But they're both going to end like in the next couple days, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird. But I guess to really finish up the show briefly, obviously we have a U.S. Open champion, and it was not Scotty Scheffler as everyone thought. I mean, the amount of people that are like, "Oh, Scotty Scheffler is going to win it." It was a guy, I believe, it was like, what was his name? J J Braun. I don't even remember his name.
JJ Spawn.
Yeah, Spawn. There we go. That was close. Yeah, hit a big putt. If you guys watch it, it's amazing. It was I could never do it. I can't even do that in putt. So yeah, so an amazing job by him. I'm always fascinated, Josh, with just how hard these golf courses are, and then I think about how bad I would be at that golf course. You would hear about like these professionals that are making millions of dollars hitting like plus 35 or not that bad. Let's say plus 10. Can you imagine what we would shoot, Josh? We would shoot so bad they wouldn't even let us finish in some of these
No, I'd
places.
I'd already be out. The best I've ever done, I think, is like a 63 over 9 holes, and that's like girls' high school golf level
Oh, I just
competition.
can't. I can't hit it straight because I swing it like a baseball bat. Because I open up and it's just I
That's
don't
me.
know where it
There's a
goes.
lot of hook. There's a lot of terrible drives because I do have a baseball swing.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
Ultimately, we're not good at every sport. I know you guys think we're prime athletes over here. Like I just know that's what you think
yeah.
when you
Believe it
listen
or
to our show.
not, we were not like 20-time letter winners in high school
No, we
or
weren't.
with college
I
scholarships,
think
full
I think
ride to
even
two
I
sports,
think
or
even combined we weren't 20 letters.
never had a letter ever.
I
I
had
did
one
1 year
letter.
of high school track, and that
I had
was it.
I had one letter, and it was my senior year. They had to put me on varsity. I just want to point that out. Like they were required to put me on varsity. I couldn't play JV. So I mean, listen, now don't get me wrong. I worked my butt off, and I got to the place where I was going to be in rotation. Then I got hurt, but still, like they had to get like once you're a senior, you get a letter. So we have a combined one varsity letter between us two. My brother can whoop us both in the amount of varsity letters that he has. So, and my cousin. So, Josh, we love to talk the talk, right? That's what we do. You know,
We just sit and talk. Yeah. What do they say? Coaches don't play.
Yeah, that's what we do, man. Like I coach, man. That's what I do. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little relaxing show. I feel like this was a relaxing show, Josh. Very relaxing show. I hope you guys kind of got away from the world of craziness and you could kind of just listen to us and what's going on. Um, Obviously, there's going to be with the July coming and August, football is ramping up. We're going to have a lot of football talk in the next few months. There's a lot of craziness happening for both of our lives, so that's going to be fun. But also, yeah, like we still want to talk about baseball. We still want to talk about basketball. Those kind of things are happening as well. So if you love listening, go ahead and click that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And also, if you love listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts, please go ahead and leave us a rating. That really helps us to see that you're enjoying it on that side of things as well. And don't forget to comment down below. Do you believe that Santa Bananas is good for baseball or is it bad for baseball? Let us know. Dad, I know you will be letting us know either way. So thanks again, everyone, for listening. And until next time, we'll see ya.